Welcome to the Findlay-Hancock County Community Foundation's 2020 Annual Celebration. I am Garry Wilson, Chair of the Board of Trustees. This year's celebration is obviously a little different than events you may have attended in the past, but for the health and safety of all, we felt it was the best to meet virtually this year. Despite the different format, we still look forward to sharing some of the highlights of 2019 and looking ahead to what the rest of 2020 will hold. At our annual celebration, we typically debut the annual report. Today, we will share bits and pieces, and I encourage you to visit our website at www.community-foundation.com to see the full report. To begin, I want to reintroduce you to the Community Foundation. Our mission is to improve the quality of life in Hancock County by partnering with donors in their philanthropic giving, engaging in collaborative leadership, and responsible grant making. We have 9 board members who help guide the foundation to accomplish that mission. Now I want to recognize the 28 new funds that were established last year and the professional advisors who referred them to the foundation. We welcome all these donors to the Dorney Legacy Society and deeply appreciate the trust and confidence that they placed in us. Now we have the privilege and responsibility to carry out their wishes. At this time, we will hear an abbreviated financial report from the Treasurer of the Board and Chairman of the Finance and Investment Committee, Mr. Garry Peiffer.
Thank you, Garry. It's my pleasure to give this year's financial report for our foundation. You will find the information I will review in our annual report at www.communityfoundation.com. First, I want to introduce our Finance and Investment Committee. With direction from the board, this committee establishes investment guidelines and policies for the management of the foundation's assets. On behalf of the entire board, I'd like to thank the members of this committee for their service to the foundation and the community. The Community Foundation's assets as of December 31 totaled $142 million, up from $120 million at the end of 2018. We earned a 19% return on the funds you entrusted to us in 2019 and an average annual return of 7.1% over the last 10 years. The Community Foundation received contributions in 2019 totaling $4.6 million. 85% of which went to designated funds, and the remaining 15% benefited our community's endowment, which is the pool of common good and field of interest funds. Lastly, the foundation awarded $3.8 million in grants in 2019. Endowments are designed to fund grants from earnings, not the original gift. This allows the endowment to preserve the value of the donor's original gift over time, so the endowment can continue to make grants essentially forever. As we have pointed out in prior years, more than 60% of the assets we have available for grant making are designated by our donors for specific organizations or causes. The remainder of our donors choose to allow our board of directors to award grants based on our community's most urgent and compelling needs. For example, 2 decades ago, our earliest donors likely would not have been able to predict how a global pandemic would affect our community's philanthropic needs. We ask you to consider supporting our community's endowment when you are planning your charitable goals to allow us the flexibility to address our community's changing priorities and needs. You can find our condensed financial statements and more details in the annual report on our website. The independent CPA firm of Clifton Larson Allen LLP audited and issued a clean opinion of the foundation's 2019 financial statements, which are available upon request. That concludes this year's financial report. It is now my pleasure to introduce Kathy Kreuchauf, President of the Community Foundation.
Thank you, Gary. As I speak with you today, Hancock County is beginning to feel the full impact of the coronavirus and the economic and social disruption that has followed in its wake. The uncertainty about what the future holds, along with the economic upheaval we have all experienced since March, has brought the fundamental needs of our community into sharp focus. Today, more than 2,400 people in Hancock County continue to be unemployed, 10 times the number that were unemployed in February. Families are facing the end of enhanced unemployment benefits, and the specter of eviction has started to appear. Food pantries and organizations providing utility and other emergency assistance report that 80% of their clients have never asked for help before. The agencies themselves are also facing challenges. We surveyed local organizations in April and found the situation dire. Nearly half of those surveyed had already reduced staff, but 2/3 expected an increase in demand for their services. Most concerning is that half of the organizations reported that they could operate at most for 4 months without a severe disruption to their operations and programming. Our community's endowment was created for a time such as this. Since March, the foundation has marshaled all its resources to provide financial and organizational support to more than 40 organizations. For example, our donor advised fund holders have awarded 30% more grants than at the same point in time last year. In addition, the entire community rallied around the emergency support fund we created for nonprofits coronavirus recovery. So far, this fund has awarded nearly $180,000 in partnership with several of our field of interest funds to support critical food distribution, housing needs, childcare, and more. The greatest impact has come from our ability to use funds from our community's endowment to support needs and initiatives no one imagined would ever be necessary. For example, the West Ohio Food Bank received a community emergency grant and was able to schedule and conduct 4 additional food distribution opportunities out in rural Hancock County and distributed more than 40,000 pounds of food at each one. The National Guard provided members to help distribute the food. Local schools and churches offered space for drive-through pickup, and hundreds of local families experiencing food insecurity were served through April and May. However, the greatest impact has come from perhaps one of our smallest grants, a grant for advocacy for local agencies as they navigate the federal and state emergency funds. We hired Jennifer Williams of Williams Consulting to work with coalitions in priority areas like housing, mental health, and more, to strengthen the chances of our community being able to access funding for coronavirus recovery. That advocacy work has resulted in more than $1 million coming into Hancock County to organizations providing services right here to our friends and neighbors in need. It was well worth the investment in dollars and relationships with legislators. Ultimately, all this work was made possible by our community's endowment, those unrestricted funds. We owe a great debt of gratitude to donors of the past and present who've had the foresight to build this unrestricted pool of funds to care for the long-term health and well-being of our community. Without our community's endowment, we would be in a much more serious position. As I bring my comments to a close, I want to express my gratitude to the many donors and friends I've had the honor of working with over the past 12 years. As I approach retirement at the end of this year, I'm confident the foundation will grow to even greater heights in its ability to respond to whatever the future brings. The individuals who comprise the board and staff are talented professionals who never take their eyes off of our true north, to improve the quality of life for all who live, work, learn, and play in Hancock County. It's been a pleasure and an honor to work at the foundation and on behalf of such a wonderful community. Thank you, and best wishes in all that you do.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you to everyone watching for being a part of another prosperous year. Before we close, I want to take time to thank the retiring members of the foundation team. Former board chair, Gwen Kensley, Chief Financial Officer, Karen Smith, and foundation president, Kathy Kreuchauf. Gwen is retiring after 8 years of service on board as board chairperson, board member, and financial investment committee member. Karen is retiring after 13 years as chief financial officer. And Kathy is retiring as president later this year after 12 years. All of these gifted leaders have dedicated years of time and talent to better our community. We have been blessed by their wisdom and guidance. We wish you the best in your well-deserved respective retirements. Each of you has helped grow and shape the foundation, and we know that you're leaving it in good hands. In closing, we are excited for the next chapter of the foundation story. As we continue to navigate the pandemic and the effects on the economy, our commitment to improving the quality of life in Hancock County remains unchanged. Your philanthropy will continue to support your community through your foundation. Stay safe, and we will see you soon.